Robert Grendon is perhaps the forgotten black South African. His life was one of racial struggle. Racism so clouded his living that this bright, intelligent, and talented man's memory has been reduced to not even a footnote in South Africa's landfill of neglected histories. And he died impoverished and blind in a small hut amongst his books and papers, almost all of which have been lost. Grendon was born in 1867 to an Irish trader and a Herero princess in what is now Namibia. He was sent to this school, Zonneblom College, in Cape Town. In this multiracial setting, under the rising cliffs of Table Mountain, with its winds and the sea mist, Grendon grew up to be one of the school's most outstanding students. There, he learned to love those things that only a handful of black boys of his age were ever able to: literature, Latin, Greek, cricket, rugby. He was, we know, one of the most outstanding cricketers of his age, but he was denied his rightful place in history by one Cecil John Rhodes, who would not allow black cricketers to play for South African teams. As a young man, he went to Kimberley. There he taught, wrote journalism and poetry, played cricket, and was one of the first black men to stand up against Rhodes's racist Masters and Servants Act of 1892, which struck off many black voters off the Cape Voters Roll. Grendon left Kimberley in the 1890s, living in the Eastern Cape for a while. But by the beginning of the South African Anglo-Boer War, he was in Natal. There, we know, he joined the British Army in order to fight the black man's great enemy, Paul Kruger, while driving a forge wagon for the British as they lost and then slowly began to push the Boers north. We know that he started his epic poem, Paul Kruger's Dream. With its Greek gods, its allusions to literature and to history, the poem is perhaps the first extended piece of literature written by a black South African. It is also, perhaps, the first attempt by a black person to understand the other, the Boer enemy. The poem begins with the arrival of the Dutch, when the Nuwe Haarlem was shipwrecked near Blouberg in 1647. 2 centuries well nigh have passed, since on yon foam-fringed coast, beneath old Table Mountain's wind-fanned brow, a band of Dutchmen, sailors, homeward bound, with treasures from the east, was shipwrecked cast. 5 months they sojourned in that pleasant land, in ease and plenty, undisturbed, forgetful of their home beyond the sea. And when the time for their departure came, they bade farewell with loathing and regret, and gazing upon the foam-fringed shore, that fruitful valley and those azure peaks, with tearful eyes they yearned, and hoped and prayed that they there too might wander back again, and yearning, hoping, praying, thus they sang: O land of hope, O land of hope, far brighter than our own, O foam-fringed coast, O fruitful slope, where we have reaped and sown, O azure peaks, O skies serene, O silent crystal streams, O pleasant woods forever green, where thou the sun's bright beams do never pierce. Adieu, adieu. And whilst this parting strain we chant, we pray that unto you we may return again. Return the Dutch did. No picture of Robert Grendon has survived. This is a picture of his brother William, and this his sister Mary.